Dear Dr. Craig, I'm a Christian and I'm trying to hold together faith in God. He's all I've ever known to be so true. Anyway, the question was, is it even possible for nothing to exist? Because if we got rid of this universe, wouldn't there just be some sort of void? I would really like your help on this. I plan on doing philosophy as I go to college in January, so I'm just trying to hold my faith together and learn and grow in Christ. Well, there are a couple of things going on here, but not only his question about nothingness and is it even possible for nothing to exist, but he also seems to be struggling a little bit.
I noticed that, and I wonder why. He doesn't seem to let on as to what it is that is causing him difficulty. The language of holding on rather than flourishing is
he said
disturbing.
It twice. And I just know in my past, in my walk with the Lord, that sometimes I felt like I was on hold in my 20s and 30s and so on until I get a certain question answered. You know what? I don't feel like I can keep going with the vigor in my relationship with the Lord until I get this issue settled. God has always been very gracious to me, Bill. I have gotten the answers. Not that I know it all, but to my satisfaction, my disturbing questions, God has graciously given me resources and insight to the point that I could move on. But this does seem like, from this college student, something that kind of has him on hold a little bit.
Right, and that's unfortunate because I don't think everyone is as fortunate as you are, Kevin. I think many times Christians will not be able to receive the answers to their questions because perhaps they're geographically isolated. Think of someone in Siberia or in the Sudan where they just don't have the resources to get answers. And therefore, I think that the key to successful Christian living is not having all your questions answered. It's learning how to live victoriously with unanswered questions. And so it's important not to let these sort of unanswered questions put our faith on hold. We need to realize that as finite persons, we're not going to have all of the answers, but we have good grounds for believing what we believe, and we move on in the hopes that as we further read and explore, we will find more answers.
So what is this problem he has with, is it even possible for nothing to exist?
Well, I think what's odd about this question, Kevin, is that the theist, at least if he's of a Leibnizian sort, agrees with the questioner that it's impossible that nothing exists. That is exactly Leibniz's point. There must be a logically necessary being or a metaphysically necessary being, which is the reason why anything at all exists. So the heart of the Leibnizian version of the cosmological argument is that there is a metaphysically necessary being, which is the sufficient reason for the existence of everything else. So I actually agree with him that it's impossible for nothing to exist. There is no possible world in which nothing exists. God exists in every possible world and is a metaphysically necessary being.
Prior to the Big Bang, notice I said prior,
yes,
because it's kind of difficult to say before the Big Bang, was there some sort of just void? I mean, there was no space, no time?
And that may be the source of his difficulty. When one says prior to, one has to mean explanatorily prior, not chronologically prior. When we say there was nothing before the Big Bang, what we mean is there was not anything before the Big Bang. We don't mean that there was something before the Big Bang and it was nothing. That would be a source of confusion. Rather, what one negates is the whole sentence. You negate the sentence, there was something before the Big Bang. It is false that there was something before the Big Bang. So it may be that he's simply being misled by the use of the word nothing as a substantive, as a noun, as a common noun, thinking that nothing must refer to something, some sort of a void. And that's not, in fact, the case any more than, say, the pronoun nobody refers to somebody. It means it's not anybody. And similarly, it's not anything prior to the Big Bang. So in saying that the universe began to exist and was preceded by nothing, one means the universe began to exist and there was not anything prior to its beginning.
It's difficult sometimes to really crank that down as to what we mean by nothing. We could say there's nothing in the room. That means there's a room with no furniture and no fixtures or anything like that. And it can also mean just an absolute absence of anything. So when we say nothing, sometimes we have to really get our definition straight, don't we?
Right. We have to be very careful, or we can very easily be tricked by words. Our language can often mislead us. There's this wonderful incident in the Odyssey, I think, of Homer, where you remember Ulysses confronts the Cyclops, and the Cyclops says, "What is your name?" And he says, "My name is Nobody." And thereafter he blinds the Cyclops, and the other Cyclopses ask him, "Who is attacking you? Who's injured you?" And he says, "Nobody has injured me. Nobody has put my eye out." And they said, "Well, then why are you so disturbed if nobody's done anything to you?" Well, you can see there Homer is making fun of the way in which this word nobody can be taken to mean somebody who is named Nobody. And similarly, this reader, I think, is thinking of nothing as being something which is nothing, and that's not the way the word is to be used. It's a negative term.
I think another example quite often is we say there was nothing prior to the Big Bang, but God was there, and isn't God something? And what we would, I guess, try to fine-tune that to is that there was nothing material or spatial or of time prior to that.
Well, again, you've got to be very careful that you understand the word prior to mean explanatorily prior or causally prior, not chronologically or temporally prior. So I would say that God is not chronologically prior to the Big Bang. He's not temporally prior to the Big Bang. He's explanatorily or causally prior to the Big Bang. And material reality comes into being at the Big Bang, so it's obviously not causally or explanatorily prior to itself. It is contingent, brought into existence by God, so that God has a sort of causal and explanatory priority to the universe, but not a temporal priority.